This is Ethan Griggs, and here we are for round two of the 70s versus the 90s. This round, we have William Friedkin's The French Connection from 1971 and Steven Soderbergh's Traffic from 2000. Now, that poses the time frame of that, it's the 70s versus the 90s. The way I'm going to use the era of the 70s is from when the new Hollywood is said to have started in 1967 all the way to 1980 when it is said to have ended. It says started with Bonnie and Clyde and The Graduate. It ended with Heaven's Gate and Raging Bull. So that's what we're going to go by. And then for the 90s, I'm going to start it in 1989 when Steven Soderbergh's Sex Lies and Videotape, as well as Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing came out, all the way to the year 2001, right before the post 9/11 cinema transitioned us into 21st century filmmaking. So let's move on with this, though. The French Connection. This is a film, it's a masterpiece. When people talk about like why the films in the 1970s are great, this is why they're fucking talking about that shit. Because not only Gene Hackman's incredible performance, an Oscar-winning performance, that is Jimmy Popeye Doyle. It is a film, another Oscar winner, William Friedkin, who, this movie swept the Oscars in 71 for a very distinct reason. It is very well made. The film it plays like a regular movie, but in a documentary-like fashion. It really gets to the center of like the mundaneness of the police that have to watch all the to catch these criminals. And what's beautiful about The French Connection is it plays like a real movie, but it's posing all these questions, because you're watching this, you're seeing the Frenchman eating fucking pastries in a warm restaurant, and you got Popeye, he's in the cold, and the coffee isn't even good, and so it's like, what is the fucking point? Like what does it all fucking mean? Because it's so fucked up is where they really they could have got away with it had they not tried to murk Popeye. Like once they tried to murk this motherfucker, that's when it was all done for him. Like nobody really wins. Now this is what set the benchmark for the 70s. In 71, it was a very pivotal year for that decade, especially for a subgenre of film that this falls into, and that also Dirty Harry of the same year would go on to epitomize, because you either had two sides of your cop coin. Your cop film was either going to be Dirty Harry or The French Connection. And, they're two completely different movies. One deals with drugs, the other one deals with a serial killer. But they both had a standalone like actor that could and it was a character, And now, granted, the Dirty Harry sequel is a lot better. They made a French Connection sequel, and it was just utter dog shit, unnecessary. Because what's beautiful about the French Connection is it has an ambiguous ending, but it's more cathartic than most ambiguous endings. We don't know what happened to the Frenchman. Like I said, if they just let this motherfucker get reassigned, they could have did their drug deal. Nobody would have fucking known about it. But the thing about it is, crime pays, but it's dumb as shit. That's why they get caught. It's just fucking ridiculousness. But that's the brilliance of this movie. And ironically enough, Friedkin evokes more Henri George Clouzot in this film than the fucking movie Sorceress, that is a remake of Clouseau's Wages of Fear. The beauty of The French Connection is just how wonderfully constructed this fucking movie is. Everything is organic, even down to the iconic chase sequence, which, everybody remembers it under the bridge, but you gotta understand, this sequence starts out with this sniper trying to take out Gene Hackman, and then him chasing the dude on foot to a fucking train, and then gets in a car and fucking chases him. That it's fucking, but then you feel every minute, and that's something that the Friedkin talked about, with the chase sequence, the car chase sequence in films is something that is only able to be done cinematically. You can't write that shit in a novel. That a car chase is pure cinema because it's all down to the editing, because it's the reaction shots, the environment, everything. This is just praising this movie. This is why, and in a way, it ruined movies too, because a lot of movies tried to be like Friedkin. Case in point, The Last Round with The Conversation. Coppola was clearly trying to do something that Friedkin could do with ease, but it wasn't Coppola's bag. And as well as getting an actual performance, because what makes Hackman's performance so great with Doyle is just the commitment that he has to the job, and just how much he just disregard that he has for anything that goes against his shit. Like, even when he fucks up, he can't acknowledge it. That's playing true to the fucking character. This movie is a fucking masterpiece. Like, it's just, and what it does is it doesn't hit you over the head with its goddamn message. It just fucking just lays it on like a fucking action movie. Lets the audience decide, as it should. Now, moving on to the 90s, what we have, whereas this one, was more of a action movie, you can call it. Traffic is more something, because Traffic was based off of a European series, which, and as much as I don't more movies over series, they should have just did this as a fucking series, and but the beauty of Traffic, and what also the French Connection does, is it shows you all sides of the drug argument. You're seeing the suppliers, the cops that try to take down the drug, but what the elements that Traffic adds that French Connection does not have is we see the drug czar played by Michael Douglas. His daughter is a fucking junkie, and we see the white privileged rich motherfuckers that they're doing better drugs than or they're doing more drugs than anybody. That's and just those level of intricacies, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, that's what makes Traffic stand out, as opposed. And also Soderbergh won Best Director for that picture too. It didn't really sweep. Benicio del Toro won the Oscar for Traffic, but and he's great. The amount of talent that they have in this movie. I mean, they even got Thomas Millian to play General Salazar. I mean, it's just nuts, But it would have played so much better as a series, because there's so much shit going on. Now, credit due to Soderbergh to make this a very compelling movie in, pretty lean 2.5 hours is very impressive. One can't deny that shit. But, and, as shit would, later on, a couple of years after Traffic came out, then you had The Wire as a series. But, so this level of stuff, if you're going to do all that shit, it's got to have a purpose. And, what Soderbergh is doing is something that hasn't really been done. At least I haven't seen it done outside of D.W. Griffith with Intolerance, where like every story is its own tint. Now, for somebody like Griffith doing that with Intolerance, that's a clear artistic choice. Nothing that's simple. Like you got to fucking tint every fucking frame, So that's a commitment. And as well as even with Soderbergh, who overexposed the film, he was going for a more experimental look. Kind of like me using this webcam. It's with the authenticity, the grittiness, the realism. And it really paints that picture. But as a movie, it's not something I want to watch all the time, because a lot of times it feels like more of a documentary than the French Connection, because you're getting, and I think there were a lot of actual like politicians and lobbyists that were in this film, and you see it's more or less an informational thing with a little bit of fucking politics added into it. But that's the thing. That's what makes the French Connection better. And I'm going to go ahead and call it and say the fucking 70s won this round, because nothing can top the French Connection, the movie. It moves like a bullet. There's no bullshit. There's no unnecessary scenes. Now, in an argument with Traffic, there's really no unnecessary sequences, save for like maybe a few exposition shots that were just what the fuck, I could shave 5 minutes off of it, but whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all. This round goes to the 70s. I gotta say it because, like I said, French Connection is great. It was a hard one. This one was tough because both movies are so good in their own right. You have two art house filmmakers trying to make mainstream movies about the war on drugs, and definitely two different periods of the war on drugs. You kind of get, what was the fresh one in French Connection where, Nixon was all on getting on drugs, and then we see what Reagan's war, the result of Reagan's war on drugs, and nobody wins. There's even less optimism in Traffic than there is in the French Connection, because like what's the biggest win here is, oh, Don Cheadle got to plant a bug under that guy's desk. Oh shit, but his friend had to die. Their key witness got poisoned. It's just like nothing really. The drug czar can't do shit because of his daughter's a junkie. It's like, maybe drugs ain't that bad. I don't know. But all I know is it goes to the 70s. Fucking rest in peace, Gene Hackman. Rest in peace, William Friedkin. Very great artists. And, like I said, this one was a tough one. But at the end of the day, that is the deciding factor. What plays best as a movie? What is the kind of shit that you want to watch over and over again? In the French Connection, shit, I can watch that movie any day. Traffic, fuck, I can turn on the news and see some fucking informational program about, the war on drugs. If I want to watch a movie, I want to watch a goddamn movie. It needs to be more action. As Howard Hawks said, these are moving pictures. They need to fucking move. And that's what he told Friedkin when he was banging Kitty Hawks with Howard Hawks' daughter. William Friedkin actually listened to Howard Hawks because this is the film that he did after he got that lecture, and I'm glad he did. And the dude kept making classics all through the 70s. So that's been this round. The next round will be the Poseidon Adventure versus Deep Rising. So that one should be exciting. Stay tuned. And as usual, if anything I've said is false or wrong, or anything you disagree with or agree with, comment. I'll address all comments, and if it's pertinent enough, maybe I'll do a video about it. And as this thing progresses, we're gonna have guests on it that are a bit more experts than me, so it's just not me rattle-assing about shit that I know and or have an opinion on. It'll be a little more, production-wise. But here we're just starting out. Right now, it's a tie. 70s and 90s are tied 1-1. So who knows what could happen. And just, stay tuned for round 3 next week.